Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us. My name is Christine McKenzie, and I am the Director of Sales at Aspira Retirement Living. The team members I support are responsible for helping seniors make the choice and decision to enter the next stage of life. One we hope will start with Aspira Living. To take you through the presentation today, I am pleased to introduce you to Rose Reisman. Rose is an award-winning entrepreneur, caterer, author, and media personality, not to mention a mother of four. As a registered nutritional consultant armed with an MBA, Rose takes in her passion for healthy living and developed it into a multifaceted enterprise, making her one of Canada's leading authorities of the art of eating and living well. Rose is committed to changing the eating habits of Canadians. She is sought after speaking and spokesperson and has over 20 cookbooks under her belt that I'm sure you will all enjoy. We also have Andrew Craig, National Director of Culinary and Hospitality for our retirement division here at Aspira, here to join us as well. Andrew oversees culinary operations for all of our retirement communities. His passionate team is dedicated to creating a dining experience that cultivates happiness in the daily lives of our residents here at Aspira. Today, Rose will discuss how to enjoy outdoor eating safely, including how to prevent food-borne illnesses as the temperatures rise. She will also discuss the benefits of staying active and how to do safely during warm weather. As we move through the presentation today, please feel free to pop any questions you have into the chat, and we look forward to hearing from you and any questions and comments. Now over to you, Rose.
Thank you so much. Thanks for that lovely introduction and welcome. I wish I could see you all, but we're still doing the Zoom. Hope you're having a great summer. I right now am in my kitchen at home and watching, I'm not only a mother of four, I'm a grandmother of 5 little ones and 2 on the way. So 3 of my grandchildren right now I can actually see looking out my window. They're swimming in the pool in the backyard. And I've told them, if you make a sound, I'll kill you. Anyway, they're having too good a time. So hopefully that you won't hear them or we won't disturb them. So summer is great. I wait for this time of year like so many of us all the time. The mornings are bright, the nights are bright, and it's just so great to be outdoors. Everybody's a lot happier. Next slide, please. So I actually did sell my business. I'm still a consultant with Rose Reisman Catering, but we did run an entire kids lunch program. We were serving 2,000 meals a day to children in the GTA in Toronto. I had a catering company. We had a home food delivery. And really, my whole emphasis has always been eating healthy, living well. And it doesn't mean that you're on a diet or that you're deprived. I really showed people in this city and across the country through my writings that great food it's delicious and it can be healthy too. So that's what I'd like to take you through today. Next slide, please. So summer fare, food safety and summer activity. And it really does mean a lot because this is a time of year where it's very hot, we're eating outdoors. And it's not even that we're careless, but it's so easy to make a mistake to make us sick. And especially, if you have a weakened immune system or you're older. I mean, there's just so many issues that can hit you in the summer. Next slide, please. So when we talk about healthy eating, it's important at any stage. It's not just when we're over 65, which I am now. It's been important since I was young, and you raise your children and your grandchildren like that. But it's especially beneficial for those over 65 because one, it helps control our weight, which is very important as we age. It strengthens our bones. As you know, nobody wants a fall. And it keeps your immunity stronger too. And they have got studies that show it can reduce the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's as we keep moving. And eating well and living a healthy lifestyle is honestly the magic bullet. But we all know it's challenging. It is not easy. I wish we could just say, eat well and exercise and everybody's great. The hospital costs would come down, it would be fabulous. But it's tough because of life and stress around us and all that incredibly good food, in a country like this. Next slide, please. So we know that it reduces the risk of serious conditions and diseases later in life. And I can't tell you how often I see someone who's overweight, doesn't exercise and say, Rose, I'm fine. My blood pressure's good. My cholesterol's good. that's playing a bit of what I call Russian roulette with your body, because, in the end, it may not catch up with you. Look I know people that lived to 105, smoked and drank and never had any issues. But you know what? I always like to approach life saying, let me do the best I can. And at least I know if something happens to me, I really did try to live a healthy lifestyle. Okay, next slide, please. So we talk now about seasonal fare. I mean, I'd love to ask all of you, how many of you are out of the barbecue already? It's so nice. You know what? Barbecuing can be a real pain because you're standing over it the entire time, but there's something wonderful about barbecuing and having a social, and it really matters what you're putting on that barbecue. Is it all bratwurst and sausages, all T-bone steaks? That's the kind of thing we'll look at. Next slide, please. So one of the things I like to talk about, because often people over 65 have got pre-diabetes or have diabetes already. And I'm always asked on my Instagram, that's where I do most of my work now, that's at Rose Reisman. People ask me, well, I'm diabetic or I'm over 65. So my doctor has said, to cut out fruit. That's a no-no. A doctor is not a nutritionist. I am a nutritionist. Fruit and vegetables, even sweeter vegetables like sweet potatoes, are fabulous for you. It's portion control. So, and all that means also is if you're going to have a banana is fine for a diet. It's better to have an underripe banana and make sure you have that banana with your meal. So if you eat these sweeter fruits like mangoes, cherries, watermelon, you're eating it by yourself, it will raise your blood sugar faster. So the key is make sure you always have that bowl of fruit right after your meal. Have it as a snack with maybe some crackers or peanut butter. And that's one of the ways to keep your blood sugars level. Next slide, please. So summer foodborne illness. So what happens here? We're talking about three main illnesses: E. coli, which often comes from ground beef, salmonella, and listeria, which can be in vegetables. And we always wonder, how can vegetables end up, making us sick? Well, it's easy. I mean, we're at risk, especially during the summer. And you'll know that if you've ever had food poisoning, it doesn't happen 20 minutes later. I ran a restaurant in Toronto called Glow, and we have someone leave the restaurant and say, come back in 15 minutes. I feel really sick. I got food poisoning. Food poisoning doesn't occur until 4 to 6 hours later. And the symptoms are anything from nausea to diarrhea to vomiting to fever. And it can be avoided. So first of all, when we look at meats, I mean, we'll talk about this in a minute, but there are every year 11 million cases in Canada of food poisoning. I was shocked to read that number. I thought that was the United States. In other words, that we would have been 1 million, right? We're about, like 10 times less. 11 million gets food poisoning. So it shows you that we're not taking care of the food the way we should be. And that can come from fruits, from vegetables, from meats, from fish, from anything. Next slide, please. So how do you avoid summer illness? Well, number one, we all know wash your hands. And since COVID, everybody's crazily washing their hands. That's always number one. The other one is to cook your meat. So, I love a rare steak if I'm going to have it. I love a rare burger. Burgers are one of the worst to have rare unless you've gone to a butcher that has ground the chuck right in front of you, nothing else has been added, and you cook it that day. Then you can have a rare burger, but that's often not done. The other thing is washing all utensils. So you're out at the barbecue and you're flipping here and you're picking up the raw chicken breast, you're flipping it over, then you use that fork and you touch the salmon and then you put it into something, you take a bite of it, bang. So it's really a lot of work to make sure you don't get sick, and maybe that's why 11 million people get sick. You got to have a bunch of utensils, and I often use different colored cutting boards. So on one board will be my vegetables, the other board will be my chicken, which is one of the most deadly, and the other board might be my fish or my beef. So you have to think about that. And my worry is young kids, especially, your children, your grandchildren, man, they don't do that. They go out to the park, they've got the beers, they're drinking, they're eating, and nobody's carrying it. And I can't tell you how often I hear, even from my own children when they were younger, how many of them got sick after eating out at a park. Produce is a funny thing. You think, oh, I'll rinse them just because I want to get the pesticides off. No, that's not the reason. When you take a whole melon, the outside of it can easily have listeria, it can have a chemical or an ingredient there that can get you very sick. So you take your knife, you cut your melon, you think, come on, it's not meat, I can't get sick. The listeria is on the outside shell, now it's on your knife. And then what do? You cut the pulp open. And I know so many people that have said, I literally just had fruit, how could I be sick? And that can happen even, when you're out dining in a restaurant. So the key is you take your melon, any fruit, you give it a good scrub, take an extra minute or two, scrub it, wash it really well. Some people use like a light soap to wash it. Then you know you're playing it safe. So it really can come from anywhere. And then the other thing is something called cross-contamination. And that came from what I told you, when you're trying a bite of this, trying a bite of a burger, and you're taking a piece of that, then you're sticking it in the coleslaw. Or if you're using the same fork. And cross-contamination, that's why, when we had the catering company, we would deal with gluten-free companies. And because if we said something was gluten-free, that company was not allowed to have any food product made with wheat because of cross-contamination. So that happens often in a restaurant. So you have to be careful. And you want to separate, when you're packing your cooler, you want to separate your raw meats from your other foods. And even in your fridge, you want to put all the raw meats in the bottom shelf. Why? Because it can drip down. There can be a hole in the bag. And if that drips down and touches any other food in your fridge, you can get very, very sick. And the key thing is you want to cook your meats to about 160 degrees. Some books will say 165, but remember, once you take it off the heat, it continues cooking another 5 or 10 degrees. So 160 is that magic number. Next slide, please. And you want to chill it promptly. So this is the other way. You go out to a picnic's maybe 3-4 hours, and you've got your food all in the cooler, you feel really good about it. Then you take out your chicken, it's sitting on your picnic table, and kids are off playing soccer. How long can you leave it out for before you get sick? On an average day, not an extreme hot day like in Texas, 2 hours is the max. 1 hour if you're over 90 degrees or 30 degrees Celsius. Anything longer than 2 hours is prone to bacteria. And you, again, even though it's cooked thoroughly, I've got some chicken here that I'll show in my demo soon, cooked beautifully, but if I left this out even on my counter for over 2 hours in my home, there's a good chance of bacteria. Now, I know, probably like yourself, if my home is cool, I could probably leave it out 3 or 4 hours and I wouldn't get sick, but you just don't know, so you don't want to again. Next slide, please. And now, what are some of the high-risk foods? So the foods that really have to be fully cooked. You shouldn't be eating unpasteurized milk or cheese. Many of us don't, but often if you're in Quebec especially, you can buy some unpasteurized cheeses in Toronto, but not many. In Quebec, they love unpasteurized cheeses. They're absolutely delicious. Raw sprouts should be avoided. And you don't want to cook your proteins partially through. When I'm in my kitchen and I've got full control and my whole family's coming over for dinner, sometimes I'll throw the chicken in, pull it out at 1:45 because I know they're going to be late, and I might pop it back in the fridge to just stop the cooking, then put it back in. Not a good practice when you're outdoors. So you're starting to do your burgers on the barbecue. Your guests say, you know what, we're just playing one more game of volleyball. We'll eat in an hour. You leave it out. Really, really, really bad mistake. The other thing are eggs. Eggs can be very dangerous. So raw eggs, forget. If you make egg salad, I'm always nervous about making egg salad if I go to a picnic, unless I keep it chilled, bring it out, and put it back in the chiller, or put it on a bed of ice, which will keep it cool. And mayo, anything made with mayo, like potato salads, coleslaws. Again, mayo has eggs in it. So you often hear somebody got sick from a salad. Next chart, please. And we talk about eggs have to be cooked because that's where you would get salmonella. And you could use those pasteurized, the liquid egg products, like the egg whites or the egg yolks blended. There's not the potential to salmonella when you're using that. So if you want to use that for scrambled eggs or whatever else you're going to be outside, that's a safer bet for sure. Next slide. Okay, so here, hot dogs and deli meats. Now, this specifically is directed towards pregnant women and seniors over 65. Often, if you cook a hot dog really well, you cook it right through, you're fine. But I can tell you how many times I've seen people cook hot dogs, right? What happens? They char it, it burns, and inside's not cooked. Now, it is a processed meat. You should be able to eat it. The average person could eat a raw hot dog and never get sick because it's not technically raw meat. But pregnant women and seniors can get very, very sick from that. So you want to make sure that if somebody cooks a hot dog, just tell them to put it on the indirect heat, which is the element where it's turned off, and let it say, you know what, don't worry about me, keep mine there for 15, 20 minutes so that it is. And as again, I say, pregnant women should avoid both of them. Now, even deli meats like prosciutto, salami, I'm shocked, but the CDC, the Canadian Disease Control, says that we should be heating, if you have a submarine sandwich, you should be heating that turkey and deli meat just because there can be bacteria in there. And that, though, as I say, specifically is towards seniors and pregnant. And I have now 2 pregnant daughter-in-laws that just won't touch. I mean, I'll have some prosciutto out with cheese when they come over for dinner, but she puts a prosciutto in the microwave. So, you know, these women are really listening to what they're reading here. Next. And eating outdoors. Okay, so we know the temperature increases the potential for contamination. And this goes anytime you have a picnic or even just eating in your lovely yard. You want to make sure you wash your utensils and your dishes well. So it's so easy to take tongs. I take tongs all the time, turn my chicken over, right? And then later, if it's got the raw meat on it, then I go back again with those tongs to flip it again. We forget because we're busy, we're enjoying, we're socializing. So you got to remember to have 2 or 3 tongs with you. That's why sometimes kids barbecuing scare me more than anything. We did talk about separating the raw meats. The other thing is you can separate the hot and cold. Make sure the cold always has lots and lots of ice in it. And cold temperature should be 40 degrees or lower. So a lot of people that are really concerned, you just go to Canadian Tire and buy one of those instant thermometers, keep it in the cooler. As long as it's below 40, you are safe. If it's above 40, if it's 41, 42, you're fine. But if you're hitting 50 or 60 degrees in that cooler, that means that's a potential for bacteria to start to accumulate. Now, if you cook warm dishes and you bring it to the barbecue, okay, that means we're looking at 140 degrees or higher. And when we used to bring our lunches into law firms and accounting firms, the main person who regulated the food so no one would get sick, the minute we brought it off the truck, they put their thermometers into our food. If it registered below 140, we were not allowed to serve it. So these are the kind of things that happen in companies. And that's why you don't hear about people getting sick when you're dealing with a reputable caterer. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, exercise. So let's get on to exercise. I wish I could see hands there, but I'd love to know how many of you exercise on a regular basis. You know, no matter what age you are, you should be moving. And it doesn't mean you have to be starting to jog or play tennis. Listen, pickleball is great. You know, I've heard of lots of injuries today in pickleball. You need to move. And really, the studies show you need to move 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day. Now that could mean a nice stroll. That could mean gardening. That might mean golfing. I mean, there's all sorts of things. Movement doesn't mean you have to be religious and get on a tread machine. Go to the mall and walk, which is a wonderful thing. But sometimes the heat prevents you from exercising. You don't feel like it. That's when you want to either get into a pool or go to the Y, or, you know, if you're up north at a cottage, you want to do something where it's a little bit cooler for you. And you really have to beware of heat exhaustion, which can happen again to pregnant women and senior people. And you know what the symptoms are for that. You just feel exhausted, faint. You're probably not drinking enough water, which means a lot, and hypothermia. So some of the, through exercise, I can tell you, just my own back and knees and everything else that start to go, it really helps to alleviate arthritis, pain in your back, pain in your knees. And a lot of people say, well, I hurt too much, Rose, to exercise. No, the right exercise will strengthen the muscles around your, let's say you have a knee problem, you want to strengthen your quads and your hamstrings. By doing that with maybe light weights or doing work on the mat, by strengthening, that pain will diminish. And sometimes pain just mentally stops us from doing something. But I really urge people to exercise. Even if you don't feel great, find someone, a personal trainer or online, somebody that can show you what you can do. Also, good exercise will lower blood sugar levels. There'll be weight control and improve mental health. When I work out and I eat well, I'm happier. When I feel lousy, don't work out and I eat. Kind of goes hand in hand. Next slide, please. And dehydration. I can't tell you how often my husband will come in and look weak and white. And I'll say, you know, it's really hot outside. You were out a lot. Did you drink enough? Oh, you know, it's that right. You have to remember to drink. So, you know, I mean, if you don't love water, I always promote these companies like SodaStream, where I have it in my own home and make it bubbly water, or, you know, Bublé's water called Bubbly. I mean, all of these drinks are fantastic to hydrate. I stay away from juices. There's a lot of sugar in juices. I stay away from artificial sweeteners. If you can, that tends to whet your appetite to want more sugar. Good old H2O is what you want. Put limes, lemons, watermelon, grapes. I sometimes freeze fruit in ice cube trays. It looks amazing. Put a little water in. I put some cherries, whatever, and I put that into my water. It really makes it taste a lot more appealing. Next slide, please. And safe outdoor exercises for seniors. As I said, walking. Now, you've heard everywhere from 10,000 steps, and everybody's crazy looking at their watches with the 10,000 steps. The new study shows that for seniors over 65, 5,000 to 8,000 steps daily is more than enough. Now, if you're only in your home and you're walking from the kitchen to your living room, you're not going to do that. But you get outside, just walk a little bit, go to the mall. That hits really, really quickly. I was just in my supermarket the other day, and before I turned around, it was like 1,000 steps just going up and down the aisle. So it's not something you have to get that concerned or obsessed about. But again, just move. Also, stats show that 30 minutes per day of exercise, like I mentioned, there's a 40 to 50% less chance of heart attack in people that do move. And I've seen that myself with friends. And the other thing is try poles. You know, those ski poles, cross-country ski poles are fabulous. It helps improve your posture. So because sometimes as you walk, as we get older, our head kind of goes forward and we're sort of more bent at the back. When you hold poles, you're forced to get the back nice and straight, and your head upper level helps your posture, which is something we really want, because you don't feel good when you start to bend over, and that does happen with seniors, and that's often just due to some bad, you know, just bad habits that we have. And I find that good exercise relieves, as I said, the arthritis. Next. So if you are a biker, if you're not a biker, I understand it, but if you still love biking, be safe. I've taken a couple of good falls on my bike, and it's not fun. Thank goodness I never hurt myself. But they now have the electric bikes. And you know what? I have no shame whatsoever of getting on an electric bike. It helps you move. You get a little tired. If you're going up any kind of incline, it's fantastic. So you can rent these. You can buy them. If you go away on a trip somewhere and you want to get on a bike, do it. Just get yourself one of the electric bikes. Fabulous exercise. Next slide, please. And of course, there's golf. I also would love to know how many of you golf. I've always had a lower back problem, so anything twisting is not in the cards for me. But what a great sport socially. And if you're not in the cart all the time, unbelievable. People tell me they put 10 to 12,000 steps in easily on a golf course. That's probably just doing, you know, a half a day. Very low impact. Of course, if you have a bad back, you have to be careful. And the same goes like pickleball is great today. If tennis is too much, but be careful. There's been so many injuries with pickleball. Going backwards, apparently, there's so many broken ankles in the hospitals today. So be careful if you do that. Next slide. And for those that want a little more flexibility and a little more meditation, Tai Chi or yoga, I'll often see people in the park doing Tai Chi and yoga. Wonderful for the body. It stretches you. It gives you movement. It helps your breathing. It helps relax you. My problem is I've never yet gotten into yoga. I wish I would. It might relax me a little more than I am. But I just like it because there's very little impact on the body. And next slide. And gardening. Again, you know, I have a green thumb in my kitchen. I don't have a green thumb outside in my garden. But a lot of people love gardening. You know, put on some earphones. I now listen to books on tape. It's wonderful. You could do that while you're gardening. Great exercise. Be careful as you're bending, because if you're bending wrong, not at the knees, you're gonna hurt your back. But it can be very, very therapeutic. And just make sure you wear lots of sunscreen. And next slide. And in general, therapeutic. Exercise is therapeutic. I find that exercise in my life is mental. I work out every single day. I don't have to work out 7 days a week, but for me, it sets my mental state. I do it early in the morning. I have a dog as well. And having a dog is great because it gets you out, even in our horrible winters, unless you're lucky enough to go away for 3 or 4 months. But I stay here all winter long, and honestly, even 30 below zero is more tolerable having a dog to take him out every day. It makes me not complain quite as much. But exercise will improve your muscle mass, and we lose muscle as we age. It will strengthen us. It will give us more physical endurance. Your coordination. I mean, falling, I notice it even over 65 now. My balance is not as good as it was 5 years ago. So the working out, for me, helps my coordination and balance and flexibility and mobility. Because there's no reason, I think we can all age so gracefully, look good, feel good, and keep doing everything we did do, and maybe just doing it at a little bit of a slower pace. Next slide. And then cottaging. It's beautiful. If you get a chance to go up north, do it. Kayaking, canoeing can be very easy. Bring on somebody strong if you're not that strong. Fishing. Now, is fishing a lot of exercise? No, but it's mindless, it's therapeutic. It's a great way to build a rapport with a friend or a child or a grandchild, things like that. And swimming is the best, and swimming aerobics. Join a class or just buy some weights on Amazon or Canadian Tire. And it really does build strength with no effort, and you stay really, really cool. Next slide. And I think that is it. If you want, I hope that there's lots of questions before I do my demo. And if you want to reach me, you can send me messages at Rose Reisman or TikTok at Rose Reisman. Instagram is where I share twice a day, 7 days a week, new ideas about food, health, recipes, myths, anything you want to know about food is there. So thank you for that. And if you'd like, I can now go forward and do the demonstration.
Sure. Rose, we do have one question.
Please.
So how long can you keep canned salmon in the fridge?
Canned salmon?
Canned salmon.
Canned salmon. 2 days. I would say once it's opened, remember anything canned, you don't want to know, can last years. Now, there's a theory, people say you're crazy. No. Anything canned, not open, can last years on your pantry. It may not taste as good, but it will not be bad in terms of bacteria. In your fridge, I wouldn't keep fish any more than 2 days.
Thank you. All right, the demo is on screen.
Sure. All right, so what I wanted to do today, I think I did fish last time. I wanted to do a grilled chicken. So I took some chicken, and if you don't want to use a barbecue, I just have a beautiful ironclad skillet here. And what I do is, I'm going to tell you a technique for fish and chicken. It's something I never used to do. I used to do it always on a higher heat, 375, 425, and grill it up. And I always found that if I cooked it over by just 2 or 3 degrees, it was dry. How often do we eat dry chicken? I mean, I know when I go out, even to a restaurant, it's rare to make the chicken really good because they're afraid if they undercook it, it can make us very sick. So for fish, you don't really get, from salmon, if it's undercooked, if it's good quality salmon, you shouldn't get sick, but some people don't like it undercooked. Here's the technique. Chicken, fish, I grilled it just in a pan like this just to get those nice marks. I then put this whole thing in my oven at 300 degrees, no more. It's called a slow roast, and oh my goodness, it tastes like butter. I marinated it a little bit before. All you really need to marinate is a little bit of oil and some kind of acid. So I use either lemon juice, soy sauce is fantastic, a little bit of garlic, marinate it for a couple hours, amazing. So this comes together so easy. It's a lovely, healthy dish for the summer, and you can do it with fish, with pork chops, with meat. I'm using some white kidney beans, and again, you could change it to chickpeas if you want. some cherry tomatoes. So it's like having a salad with a meal, which is what I like to do. And even, you know, guys, when we talk about the amount of protein in your diet, we should be cutting back and not sitting down to a big steak on a plate with, you know, one little stem of broccoli. So one of the ways I do it is cut my chicken into medallions, which you'll see. And then I serve it with a big salad like this, but you won't even know it's a salad. I'm adding some feta cheese to this. And again, substitutes for anything is fine. I mean, there's a company called Veal Life that makes the best dairy-free cheeses I've ever tried. Then I've got a garlic clove, which I will mince up here as well. Very easy to do. And this, oh my goodness, you can get 2 or 3 days out of this meal. My husband's happy because this is what he'll be having for dinner tonight. But this with salmon, and again, remember 300 degrees. If you have one of the internal thermometers, I urge you to buy one or use it, because then you're not guessing. Because as I say, the worst thing is overcooked, killed chicken, right? And now I'm going to put a few green onions in here. Very, very simple recipe. Make sure, you know, having a sharp knife is always a challenge as well. No longer do those guys go by your home with a bell dinging to come out and sharpen your knife. Now you gotta make sure you take it somewhere and you don't always get it back for a week. We're gonna throw some green onions in here. And again, you can play with any vegetable you want, but the combination of the feta, the beans, the onions is really, really nice. Okay, and then it's so simple. I'm just going to add a little bit of olive oil to it. And I think the recipe, I mean, I normally would measure everything out, but it only requires a couple tablespoons of olive oil. So you're not using much fat, you're not using a lot of saturated fat. And then some lemon juice. Freshly squeezed is always nice. If you have to use the bottle, that's okay too. But there's nothing nicer than. And this is something that you'll mix together and you'll taste the seasoning. You might say, whoa, too much lemon, Rose. Not a problem, add a little more olive oil. And then I've got a really great hint. Hold on, just give it a little bit of salt. This is a pink Himalayan salt. I like using large granules like sea salt, basically because it's not less sodium, but what it is you taste the granules. So that flavor hits you so strong, much nicer than just a table salt. Okay, and then basil. So I'll give you a little tip on basil. You know, basil can make people crazy because it turns black, right, the minute you cut it. So on my Instagram, I showed something where if you take your basil leaves, okay, you can see that, yeah, and and we're just gonna rub it with a little bit of, spray it with a little bit of olive oil. I just have a bottle here right now that's got it, but you could, you know, just dribble it on, just a little bit, gonna spray it with a little bit of olive oil. Believe it or not, if you chop it now, it will not turn black for a couple, probably 2 or 3 hours. The oil ends up sealing the cell so that oxygen can't get to it. So that's a neat little hack that I like to talk about, because everybody says, oh, Rose, I hate chopping basil. It's always black. Okay, and then really all I do is mix this up. You taste it for some seasoning, but it's a really lovely, I mean, this is a great salad on its own. I mean, some people have told me they just cut up chicken cubed and done that. Okay, so mix it up well. And then, as I say, I always taste it just to make sure. That's really nice. And then what I'm going to do, just to show you, because plating up a dish is always something special to me. I think we eat with our eyes for sure. So I'm going to throw this on here. And then up to you. I'm going to just spread this out. You could now put a whole chicken breast on here, or I could take my chicken breast like this. I could cut half, and I could end up putting it, you know, just on like that. Or you can cut it into medallions, which is what I like. And people then just tend to not eat quite as much or waste it, because often you put a whole chicken breast on and somebody takes it and they don't end up eating it all. But this chicken is so moist, cooked to, as I say, about 160 degrees. I'll put this back up here just to show you. And then you could do a little drizzle of olive oil or a little more basil on here. But it looks lovely like this as well. And this is often what I love to serve up when I have a dinner. or just put, a nice basil leaf in the middle, like this, maybe a little bit more pepper. And you have a beautiful looking, delicious dinner that's not only healthy, very low in saturated fat. Just give a little drizzle like that. And this is so delicious. I better invite company over tonight. So this is what it looks like. You can see it's really a great meal. It can be served at room temperature, or the chicken can be served warm. So now we can open it up to questions if you'd like.
Thank you. That absolutely looks delicious.
Oh, good.
So we do have one question. If
Yeah.
you were going to host a dinner on Canada Day,
Right.
what would you serve? Is there a quintessential Canada Day fare?
Oh boy. I tend to, people do love barbecuing. So in my home, I don't tend to do sausages and hot dogs. That's kind of, for me, no, but I will do some wonderful chicken breasts like this. I'll do 2 or 3 big salads. I'll make sure to do a grain salad. So instead of just white rice, I'll do a quinoa or a whole grain pasta, and it'll be a nice cold salad. Baked potatoes are the best in the summer. Put them on the barbecue. They're crisp. Serve them up with a little bit of Greek yogurt instead of sour cream. Some shredded cheese. There's so much you can do. And people aren't always fish lovers. It's funny how when I serve dinner for my family and when I make fish, it's the least thing eaten. And I love fish. So knowing people like meat, get yourself like a strip loin steak. If you want to make your life easier and not be in the kitchen all day, right? Make a couple of really nice salads and just grill some chicken, some beef steaks. But do what I do. Instead of serving, a great big chicken breast to everybody, do it in medallions. Much nicer.
Thank you. And if anybody else has any more questions, please put them in the chat. But I'm going to stop sharing this, and we will go and we will meet Andrew.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And so my name is Andrew Craig. I'm the National Director of Culinary and Hospitality at Aspira Retirement Living. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what we do and some of the fun things with Aspira. And I will just say as well, for summer barbecuing, I'm kind of keen on slow barbecue, and I do ribs Canada Day. But some of the things that we've really taken on this year are gardening and having our residents involved with our staff. One of the pictures here is our executive chef from Red Oak in Ottawa. And this is a big greenhouse garden project that we've just started. This is early in the spring. And throughout the year, we're going to be adding things like citrus trees and being able to have some of those items actually used on the culinary menu. Gardening, of course, is great exercise. So we always encourage everyone to get out when it's nice. Everyone can have a little bit of their own space as well. And some of the vegetables that our residents grow actually go back to their own suites, and they cook their own meals. James here, our executive chef in the picture, is wonderful about doing cooking demos and having great demonstration days for residents using the fresh produce as well that our residents have grown. It's a really wonderful sense of community and again, just a wonderful activity. So some of the things we are working on as well is we have several of our locations across Canada. The residents really got together and asked the chef, what herbs would you like? So that fresh flavors come through all of the time. And again, James just did this incredible mango salad for a wonderful buffet dinner that we had. And so spectacular with the fresh herbs out of the garden again. And that sense of community is so important with all of our residents and our team members. Next slide, please. One of the things that Rose really talked about as well is staying hydrated in the summer. And it's so critical, especially for seniors. And especially knowing that having gone through the pandemic, how important hydration and fluids were when we weren't feeling all that well. So one of my great pleasures is as a director and with such a premier retirement living community, I get to deal directly with some incredible Canadian companies that actually made these products for us. So we went to Sunrise Juices, and they actually created these enhanced waters for us. Now, one of our chefs went above and beyond and created these non-alcoholic mocktails. And our residents absolutely love this. The flavors are wonderful. The blueberry pomegranate mojito is what he had with it. A little bit of fruits in it, and there is some actual mint to that one as well. And really helps with that. Adding the electrolytes to it has added the hydration. Very low sugar as well. There's no sugars added to it. It would just be the fruits that are natural to the blueberry and pomegranate in this as well. One of the fun things that we are actually introducing this year is our electrolyte lemonade. We love that it's fresh, real lemons, and it's just that enhancement again that helps the liquids from the waters get into the system. And for seniors, it's so critical. It's one of the things that we love doing at Aspira, that we can go above and beyond for our residents. And you're more than welcome as well to book a time with our homes and come and visit us. Come and see if you happen to be in the Ottawa area. Our Red Oak location has these incredible buffet dinners, or you can join us for one of our open house days as well. That's everything for me today.